Library, and welcome to another episode of It's Elementary. So today I want to share with you a beautiful new book. It's called A Thousand Glass Flowers. And the subtitle is Marietta Barovière and the Invention of the Rosetta Bead. What is a Rosetta bead? Look what she has in her hand right there. What do you think it might be? Let's take a look and find out. So this book is written and illustrated by Evan Turk, and we want to thank Antoneum Books and their publisher, Simon & Schuster, for permission to share this book with you today. So let's take a closer look. A Thousand Glass Flowers.
Marietta loved to watch the sun. It was like a glowing ball of glass that rose each morning to give light and color to the world. She lived with her family on the island of Murano, as all glassmakers did, cut off from the main city of Venice. Her father, Angelo Barovière, was a true maestro, a master of glass. He performed miracles with it, turning the molten sand into elegant forms as clear as water, as white as milk, or as richly colored as precious stones. Marietta dreamed of creating glass too, but glass was men's work. So while her brothers assisted their father with the blazing hot fires of the furnace, she stayed at home. Marietta wanted more. Every time she saw the sun, she was reminded of the glow of the furnace and longed to be able to make glass like her brothers. She wanted to create. Often she would idle near the door of the glass workshop, watching the men work. "No little girls allowed," her brothers taunted as they chased her away. But still Marietta returned. One day her father noticed her peeking and beckoned her inside. As Marietta stepped into the workshop for the first time, she felt the immense heat of the furnace engulf her. She stared into the blinding light of the bocca, the mouth of the furnace, as her father gathered glass onto a long iron blowpipe. He pulled the pipe out and puffed a quick bit of air into it. Marietta gasped as a bubble of air bloomed inside the hot ball of glass, expanding with her father's breath. Her father smiled. "Now you, my dear." Gently he held her hands on the pipe as he twirled it, guiding it toward the furnace. A rush of heat and light and fear hit her. Her skin must surely be on fire. She struggled to see as her father dipped the pipe to swirl the glass onto the end. He lifted the pipe out and began to blow again. Marietta felt raw and red from the heat. Even the sun could not be this bright or this hot. In stunned silence, she watched as her father continued to perform his miracles. Marietta awoke the next morning, still blinking away the image of the furnace, but it would not disappear. Gingerly, she touched the red skin on her palm and felt a tingle of fear return, but along with it came a wave of exhilaration and purpose. She returned to her father's door. Once again he smiled and brought her inside. The heat was just as intense as before. Marietta hesitated, but then she heard one of her brothers laugh. She stood a little taller and walked over to stand beside her father near the furnace. Marietta pushed her fear away and moved her pipe closer to the bocca. The blaze of heat nearly knocked her over, but she made sure her hands didn't shake. Steadily she guided the pipe, twirling it as her father had shown her, and watched the molten glass swirl around the tip. At last she pulled the pipe out and admired the tiny ball of glass she had collected. The boys stopped giggling. Marietta felt her dreams begin to take shape, and from then on her father often taught her and let her observe. The heat of the furnace no longer frightened her. When it came to business, though, her brothers came first. "Today I go with father to Venice," her older brother Marino bragged. Take me with you, she pleaded, as he closed the door behind him. Day after day she watched them leave for places she thought she would never see. Early one morning her father entered her room with a grin. Cara Marietta, today you will accompany me to Venice. A wealthy patron has asked me to create a work of glass for him. Marietta beamed. She and her father boarded an ornate gilded gondola at the dock, and the gondolier paddled them through the early morning fog to Venice. They passed under bridge after bridge until they arrived at the Grand Canal. Hundreds of gondolas slid by in every direction, full of travelers, merchants, nobles, and fishermen. Their gondola stopped in front of the most brilliantly gleaming palace Marietta could have imagined. Her father's patron led them into a room filled with grand pedestals, each topped with a beautiful piece of glass. One in particular caught Marietta's eye. It was not the biggest or the showiest, but it was unique. It was a small bowl, not much bigger than the palm of her hand, which looked like it had a field of flowers forever blooming across its surface. Marietta was entranced. That, my dear, is very old, the patron said. Alas, the technique has been lost for hundreds of years. That's part of what makes this piece so special. As they left, Marietta wished this magical day would never end. Then her father winked and whispered something to the gondolier, who continued farther down the Grand Canal to the most exquisite building Marietta had ever seen. This is San Marco, and these incredible pictures are made with tiny pieces of glass and stone, called tesserae, her father whispered. We call them mosaikai, mosaics. Marietta gaped at the twinkling golden scene, shimmering with millions of individual pieces. She had never seen something so tiny become part of something so grand. Marietta imagined herself as one of the glittering tiles, yearning to see what dazzling picture she was helping to create. As time passed, Marietta's skills grew and grew. She was never happier than when she was in the heat of the furnace. Finally, her brothers saw what she could do. When their father passed on, he left his workshop in the capable hands of his children, and to Marietta he entrusted his precious recipes for colored glass. Many in Murano laughed at the idea of a woman doing a man's job, and some of the other glassmakers even conspired against her. But Marietta kept working. The years went on, and as Marietta worked, memories of her childhood would often drift across her mind. She cherished each one like a precious jewel. One day, as she stared into the furnace, she gasped as an idea began to glow in her mind. She remembered the immense glittering mosaics of San Marco, made up of pieces so small yet so eternal, as she gathered white glass from the hot sun of the furnace. She remembered the ever-blooming flowers of the ancient bowl as she filled the glass with her breath. She remembered how her father had made miracles with glass and opened her eyes to the wonders of creating. She dipped the glass into layer after layer of brilliant red, white, and blue glass, pressing it into a star-shaped mold each time. She remembered the heat of the furnace and the fear she had once felt. She remembered all those who had laughed at her. And as she dipped the pipe into the final layer, she remembered the sun, like a glowing sphere of glass rising every morning to give light and color to the world. Using another blowpipe, Marietta pulled the molten glass into a long, thin rope. As she snapped the cooled rope into short segments, each break revealed a blooming star-shaped flower within. Like the ancient bowl she had seen so many years ago, her work had captured something magical. Carefully, Marietta filed and smoothed each segment into a rounded bead, an individual blossom, or rosetta, frozen in glass. One by one, she strung them into a necklace, each bead a memory opened at the center with the breath she had given. Soon people began to take note of Marietta's rosetta beads. Women wanted dozens of them for necklaces. Her beads were in such demand that the Doge, the leader of Venice, gave her the privilege of opening her own workshop, one of the first women to do so. As Marietta's rosetta beads gained popularity around the world, they came to be as valuable as gold. Ships would soon sail with hulls full of thousands of her rosette, from Europe to kings in West Africa, and even to the shores of the New World. Marietta clasped a strand of rosette to her chest as she stared out over the lagoon, watching the sun emerge from the sea. Her beads were small, but they spread like a great meadow across the globe. Tiny balls of glass, memories strung together into something grand, reaching farther toward the sun than she ever thought possible.
The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story and especially enjoyed those beautiful illustrations. Now, I think that we need to make a stained glass project of our own so we can remember this wonderful story. So let's head over to the table and see what we can figure out. All right, welcome back. So I said we were going to make a stained glass project today, but you don't think we're really going to make a stained glass project today, do you? Not out of real stained glass, right? Remember what we learned in the story, how dangerous it is, how hot the furnaces are, all of that molten glass. We're not going to be doing that today. Instead, we're going to make our own version of a stained glass project, and it's going to end up looking a little something like this. Something beautiful that you can hang up in your window like this, put it up to some light, and it's just absolutely beautiful to look at. So, how did we make this? What are our little pieces of glass in here? So this is a little bit of a two-step process we're going to do today. The first thing, we're going to need to make all of those little pieces. And believe it or not, those little pieces are noodles. We're going to use some pasta today. Pasta is very fun to work with. I have some lasagna noodles here, but we want things that are flat. You may be able to find some flat lasagna noodles out there. I was not able to find any flat lasagna noodles, so instead, I need to break off those little pieces on the sides. We don't want those little curvy pieces on the sides there because we want our stuff to be very flat. So instead, we want some pieces like this. Doesn't matter what shape they are or what size they are. You can break them up littler, you can keep them bigger, whatever you like. So you just need to end up with a bunch of pieces of pasta in all different shapes and sizes. So we'll kind of keep breaking this up like this. I used a whole box full of lasagna noodles for my project, but I didn't use them all in that one picture. So it'll give you quite a bit if you break up a bunch of it. So you get the idea. Lots of little pieces like this. I've got this nice tray to catch it all in. Maybe I want to do a couple more. Just as long as you're taking off of all of those pieces on the side there. You might be able to use a little mallet to take those off, although when I did that, they kind of flew all over my kitchen, so I kind of stopped doing that. I was kind of making a mess. And it works pretty well if you just break them off like this. So eventually you'll end up with a nice big pile of all of these wonderful little flat pieces of pasta. So now we want them to be different colors, don't we? Because that's what made our project so beautiful. And all of those things that Marietta saw when she was looking at all of the bowls and all the windows and the buildings in her village, all those things that inspired her to make all of her beautiful pieces. So to turn them different colors, all we're going to need is a small bag, big enough to put in however many you're going to be turning colors. We want a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol you might be able to find at home. Be sure to ask a grown-up before you use anything like this that you get out of the medicine cabinet. But we need probably about a teaspoon or so. So mine is a squirty kind, so I can't measure it very well, but that's okay. We're gonna estimate. That's a good word, estimate. So there we go. So I have about a teaspoon or so in the bottom of that bag. And then I'm gonna need some food coloring. You can do any colors you want. I found actually that blue worked really, really well. So I'm going to put some blue in there. Pretty good squirt. Like that. Pretty good squirt of blue. Like that. And then we're just going to kind of mix it up a little bit in the bottom of that bag. Ooh, very pretty, isn't it? And then we're just going to put our pasta right inside. You can do it just with the food coloring, but the rubbing alcohol will help it to stick a little bit better. Now, you notice you do want to do this over the sink or over a tray like this because some of these pieces are a little sharp. And look, I have a hole in my bag already. So, it gets a little messy, but that's okay. We're all about messy. Ooh, it's getting a lot messy. That's okay too. So, we're going to take our bag and just move that pasta around on the inside. And we can see as we do that, it's starting to get stained already, isn't it? And the more you do that, the more that it will. So spread it around a little bit. It's leaking, so I'm getting it on my finger too, but that's okay. It's just food coloring. It'll come off. It'll come off eventually. So we're just going to spread around, spread around, spread around. And then when you're ready, you're going to take this and dump it out onto a paper towel. And then let it dry. So that's the first step of our process. We need to make all of our pieces and let them dry, because they need to dry out completely before we can use them for our project. But I did this already with my other pieces. I'll get our mess out of the way here. And look at all these beautiful pieces that I made. I made some blue ones. Believe it or not, that's blue. But if you take blue food coloring and put it on yellow pasta, it looks kind of green, doesn't it? This is what green actually looks like. There's a little bit difference there. But I did some green ones. I did some red ones. That's a very pretty red color there. I did some yellow ones. The yellow ones turned out even better than I thought they would. I like those very much. They're very pretty. Then I started to get a little creative, and I mixed some red and some blue. What happens if you mix red and blue? What color do you get? You get purple. Purplish. You get kind of purple. They turned out a little bit more black than purple, but I still kind of like them, actually. I think they're pretty. So I have all of these wonderful pieces of all different colors, and this is how I'm going to make my beautiful mosaic. That's a good word for this. My beautiful mosaic picture here. But we're going to need the things to put it together, right? Now we have our insides. So we need some kind of frame that we're going to put it around. I decided to use some cardboard because it's a little bit heavier, a little bit stiffer. You can use something a little bit thinner. This is just the outside of a box of juice that I got from the store. So I just cut out the side of it, and then I cut out the middle so that I could make myself a frame. Make sure that you get help with this, because especially if you use heavy cardboard like this, it is a little tough to get through. You're going to want probably an X-Acto knife, and that is a grown-up tool. You want to make sure that you get a grown-up to help you with that. But if you don't have anything like this, you could use some cardboard that's a little thinner, like a cereal box, something like that. You can even just use some paper, some construction paper. That will work just fine too. But I kind of like the heavier thing like this. So I have this, and the first thing I want to do is decide what my picture is going to be. So before I attach anything to anything, I want to just play around with my pieces here. So I did just an abstract, that's what you call this when it's not really a picture of anything in particular, it's just sort of some pretty colors, an abstract. But maybe you could even take all of your pieces and make them into a picture of something. You could make a tree or a house or a person or all kinds of wonderful things. But you want to experiment with that a little bit. So maybe just lay out your pieces in that square and decide how you want them to go together. Like maybe they'll go together. Maybe you want them really close together so you can almost match up the sides. Maybe you want them really wide like I did mine. I've got lots of space in between mine so that you'll be able to see just the regular light coming through. Anything you want to do is fabulous. But first, figure out what your picture is going to be. Figure it out just on a piece of, just on the table before you start attaching anything to your frame. So that's your first step. Once you decide what your picture is going to be, and here's how you're going to put it all together. If you have some contact paper at home, some people might have some contact paper, maybe you use it to put it on shelves and it's clear, you can use that. What I ended up using for mine was just some packing tape. Packing tape worked out just great. So I took some packing tape. Usually you need to use some scissors with packing tape, so be careful with that too. But I took some packing tape and I just put a strip of it across the back of my frame so that it sticks out onto the sides of the frame, but also gives you some sticky part right in the middle. So we'll trim that off there. So now you can see I've got a sticky part right there in the middle. It's a little hard to see because it's clear, right? But there it is. So I'm going to do that across the whole way of my frame. So if I put that in another one, and you get the idea. You're going to do it all the way up to the top of your frame. And once you do that, you'll have a place to stick on those pieces. Right? So you can decide that maybe I want to put this piece right up in the corner like that. That looks pretty good, huh? And maybe next to that, I want to have a yellow piece. Now, the nice thing is you can move them around, too. You know, if you decide, oh, gosh, no, I don't like that yellow piece. Now, we're going to put maybe a red piece instead. So I can take that one off and I can put my red piece there. Ooh, that fits together really well. Look, that's like right close together if I want to do it like that. So play around with it, see what you can come up with. And then when you're completely done, when you're happy with your picture, you're going to put tape on the other side, just like we did on that side. So we'll put some tape. I keep pushing down that corner because that way you can find where you are on your tape. So take that piece of tape and put it across the bottom on the opposite side. And when you do that, stop my tape off again. When you do that, you'll trap those pieces on the inside and you'll have your beautiful sun catcher. You can even decorate your frame too if you want to. You could put some more of these pieces on the frame as well if you wanted to. That would be very pretty. Or decorate it with something else, with crayons or markers or anything you like. And now, once you're done, you'll have a beautiful piece of artwork that will catch the sun in your windows and will be just lovely. And will remind us of all of the beautiful stained glass that we saw in our story today. So I hope that you enjoyed our project. I hope that you have a lot of fun with it. I'd love to see what you make. If you wanted to make something, take a picture of it and put it in the comments on this. I would love to see it. But stay tuned to Calvert Library's social media feeds because we've got lots more of It's Elementaries and programs for the whole family coming up. So thank you so much and have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.